Welcome back from the Protoss versus Zerg, everyone. Back here, of course, with Trace, and we're going to be jumping into kind of what's going on with your life as a more general sense. So you've been playing StarCraft for a while, haven't you?
Yeah, I've actually been playing since 2012, so we're going on the third year here.
Yeah, how did you actually get started in StarCraft then?
All right, well, I have a funny story about that. So in high school, because I was still in high school when I started, but this was about a year before that, and I was just making fun of all my friends because I thought it was just the silliest game ever. And then and nothing else really came of it, but eventually, I'm not sure how I got into it. I think one of my friends from an orchestra I was part of actually played StarCraft, and he's a pretty close friend of mine to this day still. And then eventually I just started playing, and then soon enough, well, not soon enough, but eventually over time, I surpassed all of my friends.
How did you actually manage to get your name Trace? Because that's an interesting one.
Okay, I have another good story. Okay, so a long time ago, probably 2004, maybe 2005, when I was about like 11 or 12 years old. I played this Nintendo DS game a lot. It's called, I don't know if you know it, but it's called Metroid Prime Hunters. It was a FPS for the spin-off of Metroid series, which I still am a big fan of the Metroid series. And I was also an active member on the Nintendo forums before they were shut down in '07. Basically, there's a character named Trace, and my original alias is Trace User, but I shortened it to Trace in StarCraft. But I've pretty much been known like throughout the internet as either Trace or Trace User.
Well, let's talk a bit about your Protoss versus Terran, because I know this is my favorite matchup. I've said that many, many times on this show. But how are you feeling about PvT? I know it's not every Protoss player's favorite matchup right now.
It's actually my worst matchup. I think it's been my worst matchup for like 2 years. I don't know why or how. Like it's probably there must be some mental block, but sometimes I overcome it and I do pretty well. Other times I just like I repeat all the mistakes or something happens. I don't know. It's just in my head maybe, and I just lose a lot. I guess a Terran player is probably like the scariest race that I would have to go up against.
Well, you came in a good season then, because there's only two players, EJK and Elahim. So how are you feeling about those two?
I haven't played them too much or like
Mhm.
recently, but I used to play against them a decent amount, maybe a year ago when I wasn't as good as I am now. I haven't been hitting the ladder too much lately. It's usually just custom games. I play against, in my opinion, better players than EJK and Elhaim. That being like Drunken Boy and players like that. I practice a lot with people like him. I should be confident against him, but I still have those PvT troubles, and I might still lose. And hopefully everything will be okay if I have to play against them.
Yeah, so what exactly is causing you grief in PvT? Is it just having trouble getting the same scouting information off that you were talking about to play that sort of adaptive playstyle, or what?
I don't think it's the scouting. I do okay. I do fine with that. I think it's like it's either I don't harass enough or I just like die to a big attack. Sometimes I like mess up my multitasking and I like die to like drops or something. Those are the two main things I would say: drops and like a timing attack.
So would you say that you are a bit more of a passive player then? You'd sometimes feel like you give the Terran player too much breathing room?
Yeah, passive is it's the perfect word. I would say it actually to describe how I play against Terran. But that's not a bad thing. Like that's definitely not a
Yeah.
bad thing. You can sit there and like turtle on upgrades and then you'll be okay if you just don't die.
Hmm.
But I just have to figure out how to not to die.
So it's mostly struggles in the mid game then. When you get to the late game, you feel pretty comfortable?
Yeah, as long as nothing like bad happens and my like economy is okay and I have like all the Templars spread out and everything, like I
Hmm.
should be okay and I should be able to win the game.
Do you have a lot of faith in kind of your control in the late game with those big late game armies?
I think I have good Templar control. Maybe my Blink Stalker control should be better. I don't have a separate hotkey for them, and I know a lot of people do.
So if you had to describe yourself as having one strength and one weakness in the matchup, what would those two things be?
If I ever use like a Warp Prism, I'm really good at using like keeping my opponent like distracted by it. So like I won't neglect it. Like I'll drop Zealots in, and then I'll make sure I at least get the Warp Prism out. If not, like a Zealot or two, because I know their attention will be right there at their base wherever the Zealots are at, like harassing them. And then hopefully at the same time I will have my main army, and hopefully I'll try to do something with it too right there. But I still want to make sure the Warp Prism gets out so I can repeatedly do that. And a weakness, I don't want to say drops, but like I'm really prone to the opening Widowmine drop. Maybe every player is because it's just really annoying to deal with. I just really don't like dealing with the Widowmine drops.
Do you ever try and open Templar tech? Is that why it
Uh,
causes
no, I
problems, or
actually
even
no,
opening
I actually
Robo?
never open Templar Tech anymore.
Yeah, I don't think many people do.
It's pretty much obsolete now. I really wish I could still open it, but Widow Mines are way too good now.
You and me together, man. You and me together. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing your Protoss versus Terran. Don't go anywhere, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be right back.
It's game time! Protoss versus Terran.
Welcome everyone to the Protoss versus Terran. I'm joined here once again by Droopy Town, and we're going to be jumping in and introducing the players as we spawn down here in the bottom left-hand corner of the map. We have the red Protoss player representing Team Gravity, and the highlight player of the day. It is Trace.
And over on the upper right-hand side is going to be a slightly shorter barcode player. I don't know if that represents that maybe he's a shorter person in real life. I don't know. But he is the blue Terran on the upper right-hand side. He is a player for Cascade. It is Kas.
That would be interesting if he actually just ends up being slightly shorter than Trace in real life.
Yeah.
So we'll start using that to identify each other on the ladder.
Right. But, you know, it's weird to me because players like to use barcode as a way to stay anonymous. But if you go for a shorter barcode, then isn't that you kind of standing out?
You stand out. Yeah. Exactly. It defeats the purpose. Unless you might as well at that point just literally name yourself BARCODE, like barcode. Because I'm pretty sure players already pick up on really, really small things. We were talking about this earlier. Stuff like, oh, you know, the player that uses this portrait and is like level 37 or something is actually, you know, Nesty or whatever. Like, people pick up on that kind of stuff. They're definitely going to pick up on something like, this person has a shorter name than everybody else.
Oh, well, I'll say this too. If Nesty is still playing this game, then definitely everyone's going to pick up on that.
Yeah. Oh, Trace. Trace, you got 4 guys in gas. Trace, that's not how this game works.
Oops.
Oh, man. A little bit annoying.
4/3 is greater than 3/3 as far as fractions go. So.
Oh my God, Troopy, tell me more about basic math. I need to. We need to educate the audience, man. This is Breaking Out. This is where we teach viewers about mathematics under the disguise of teaching them about StarCraft. Oh my God! And on the other side of the map, we have 1 guy in gas for Kos.
You know, did you know too that Breaking Out also teaches people how to read clock hands?
Yeah, we're learning this is like elementary school education because we're covering the basics, but we're covering a wide variety, right? This isn't like a college course where we just focus in on mathematics or just like history or something. We get a good breadth. This is your gen ed classes.
All right, there's a Reaper here from Kas. Just going to go ahead and waltz on into this main base, just do a little scouting. Not going to do really any damage with the mothership core, just, you know, breathing overhead. So yeah, Kas is going to back off here. Both players referencing the fact that they are, after all, anonymous. We do have Trace sneakily sneaking out with a mineral package there from Kas's mineral line with his probe. So both players just getting their scouting in, really.
Yeah, this Reaper's gonna have none of that. Oh my God, the probe jukes! The probe jukes are real! Oh my God, I think that this is actually so perfect. And people might be like, oh my God, Trace is a map happer. No, actually what ended up happening was, I think that Kos overthought it. He was like, this probe is definitely gonna go to the 3rd or like the 4th or hide somewhere in the top left. And Trace was like, next level jukes. I'm going to go hide in the bottom right-hand corner of the map, because who would expect the proxy pilot in the bottom right-hand corner of the map?
Yeah, he is taking a long route back home, I will say that, because he's thinking that Reaper might chase after it.
Yeah.
So he's just trying to think 2 steps ahead here. Like, what's the safest path I can send this probe home? And, well, the Reaper stole find anyway.
Mothership core, is it going to be enough? With the Stalker joining in, it's enough, and the Reaper gets taken out. Explosion dead, but oh my God, Droopy, this is a little bit less usual. Concussive shells being researched immediately from the 3 racks opening.
Oh yes, not stim, right?
Well, we got a decent force. I get the feeling that Koss wants to put on the pressure, force out a photon overcharge. But I don't even know if a photon overcharge is going to be enough against this many units. They can just start to waltz into the main base. They get a pick off on the Stalker with concussive shells, kind of catching him off guard. Actually, if he's not careful, then Trace might end up losing both of these Stalkers.
Yeah, I mean, if Trace makes sure to pull these back, I think he'll be fine.
That Stalker though, concussive shells.
It's slowed down. The Marines giving chase. It's red. It's gone. And there's only 2 Stalkers left. But Trace does have Warp Gate, 3 gateways finished up.
Oh my god.
He should be okay here, but losing that for a Stalker kind of sucks.
Oh my god, actually, but seeing all these Stalkers, I think that Koss immediately knows, like, wait a second. Why do you have this many Stalkers unless you're going for Blink? Blink is on the way, but it's not finished up just quite yet. Koss is doing some nice damage. He's gonna retreat on home, though, I think, because, you know, he doesn't have Stim was obviously delayed to get concussive shells. He doesn't have Medivacs coming out anytime soon. He's got to be very wary about the health on those Marines.
Yeah, I mean, and also he doesn't have any more reinforcements coming over, so he's not committing to it. And plus, Trace is going to have more Stalkers out with another Warpin. So,
exactly.
Yeah, Koss happy to force out the Photon Overcharge. And, well, it's a scouting trick, too. I mean, he's, like you said, sees those Stalkers. Now he knows what he's up against.
I love Terran players that do this kind of thing, but of course it does come at a cost. As we said, Stim going to be slightly further delayed, but actually, you know, I actually want to say that the push almost kind of delayed Trace a little bit, right? Because the Stalkers, normally when you see the Blink Stalker attack come in, the Warpins are happening on the other side of the map. They are moving out with 3 or 4 Stalkers, and then they're warping in, and then they're being aggressive. Right now, Trace is only just now moving out across the map. He only is just now kind of getting that proxy pawn set up on the right-hand side, and I don't know how much damage he's going to be able to do, because Stim is finishing up now.
Yeah, I mean, with Stim, with the bunker in place, I think this is just going to be more of Trace's poke now.
Yeah.
Koss poked earlier, now it's time for Trace's do a little poking.
Yeah,
No high
exactly.
ground vision either. He's not going to sneak into that main base anytime soon.
Yeah, at this point, he's basically committed to not committing, if that makes sense. But Robotics Facility coming down behind this, and a Robotics Bay going up as well. So, going to be looking to transition. Wonder when these 2 players are going to actually end up looking for those 3rd expansions.
Well, Koss is already, just 1 step ahead on that 2. Marine going to sit here. Trace tries to take that 3rd, but the probe gets away in time. And he'll be able to start on that Nexus now. And, well, it's almost like immediate that once that probe or once that Marine dies, Koss starts moving out here with his medevac timing.
Yeah, these Stalkers, they are going to catch a glimpse of the Marines. I think if they tag that zone like a watchtower. I think that this Stalker actually already saw the Marines moving out, so he's got to get into position, but it's important to know where that army is going to come from. Are they going to come from the right-hand side of that 3rd, or are they going to come into the natural expansion? It looks like the right-hand side, but Trace doesn't seem fully aware of it just yet.
No, and this Nexus is most certainly going to be canceled if not taken out. There it is. And, you know, Trace, he can't hope to fight this just yet. He needs to get out that Colossus ASAP, like yesterday. But Koss actually isn't going to, push further in yet. So that will give Trace a little bit of time to get ready.
It would be quite a boon if you could get out the Colossus before the game started. That'd be fantastic. You just walk it across the map. There's opponent has like 12 workers. They have like a Reaper. It's like, don't worry about that. I got a Colossus. What are you gonna do about it?
Maybe it should be a choice.
It should be
you start with 0 workers. Oh well,
and
you start with maybe like 1 worker.
Oh my god. Yeah, that would actually be perfect. You start off with a worker, a Warp Prism, and a Colossus, or you start off with 20 workers.
Yeah, it's just like a menu you choose at the beginning of the game, like which option.
Dude, that would be sick, man. I want to see a custom map like that, where you basically just get to start with a select group of options, and they all kind of like randomly counter each other or whatever, and obviously you don't have any idea what your opponent picked, so you just got to go out and scout. Oh, that would be so sick. And the War Prism Colossus thing would just be like the micro option, like, I'm gonna micro my way to victory.
Well, I'm still wondering when Koss is gonna, make a move here. He did force the cancellation on a 3rd, so that is some kind of damage, but he hasn't been across the map since looking to do damage. Now, I will say that Trace has an eye on everything. He's got both towers. He's got proxy pounds all over the place, observers as well. He's even got a zealot over here in the 3rd base of Koss doing actually some All right, damage. 2 kills to its name. But looks like Koss is going to start making his move on this third once more. But the Nexus is finished now. Will he destroy it? Looks like he's not going to commit.
Yeah, the Nexus is going to be the one destroying things today, Droopy. Photon Overcharge gets thrown down and forces Koss back a bit. There are a couple Vikings out, but I mean, not a whole lot. And you have to remember that those medevacs were actually pretty heavily delayed just by how many barracks Koss has. Oh my god, that's a lot of barracks.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
Well, he's going to be
too much too soon, maybe? I don't know.
I don't know. He's looking to play catch-up with the double reactor starport as well. So, I mean, if there's one thing Koss has got going for him, it is production. So, he's going to be able to kick into high gear soon, but he's not quite there yet. I still feel like right now, it's like even army supply, but the army of Trace is just a bit better right now.
Yep. And that includes a couple DTs that are sneaking their way into Koss's base. Missile turret just started. Oh, there is a scan thrown down, but the DT's going to get AMU'd by SCVs. That's not really a bad deal for Trace.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, in the third, though, the scan does kill off, well, get the kill for the those Marines. So,
yeah.
Well, good damage done there by the SCV in the main, at least.
Oh, got to be careful over this
Or
third
the
of
SCV.
Trace, though. As the army is now moving in, the Stalker is not exactly in the best position to deal with these Vikings. They're trying to focus fire them down one by one, but unfortunately, a lot of these Stalkers not attacking. The Colossus almost all get sniped off. One Colossus lives to tell the tale as it reinforces, but with no splash damages, could get a little bit tricky.
Yeah, Trace is focusing a lot on the DT micro at the top and just kind of left his Stalker sitting there. One blink would have gotten them right under those Vikings, but now he's seeing really just Gateway versus Bio. Not exactly a good place for a Protoss to be.
Yeah, 4 seals go down. He's going to be able to do some nice damage over here, but I gotta say, there's only 2 medevacs, and honestly, Trace might actually still be able to take this with another reinforcing warp, and he's definitely going to be able to, but a lot of probes had to be pulled off the line for the defense, and he is not going to be too happy about that, but I guess both of these players doing a lot of damage. There's another Zealot in the natural expansion. He's up to 6 kills. He's still killing more.
Yeah, I mean, Trace, losing some probes there, but he's making sure to even things up as best he can with these sneak attacks with the DTs and the Zealots. So both players are actually even on workers right now, although, of course, we do have to factor in mules for the Terran.
Oh my god. Don't worry, no Protoss ever has not factored in mules.
Right.
Something
It's
they're
always in the
very
back
bitter
of
about.
it. Right.
Oh my god, sometimes it's in the front, but regardless, we are going to be seeing Trace move across the map. He's finally got some High Templars in the mix, making them into Archons, looking to put on some pressure. I don't know if it's always hard to tell when you do that kind of like Zealot harassment, but then you also have to pull probes. It can be difficult to tell how many workers you lost, how many workers they lost, who's ahead, who's behind, but it looks like Trace feels as though he needs to put on some pressure. We'll see how much damage he's going to be able to do over here. There's definitely a lot of medevacs coming out, and even another wave of Vikings coming out. All for one Colossus, though. Well, I guess second Colossus coming in.
Yeah, I'm a little concerned about the lack of AoE, though, here for Trace. He doesn't have Storm yet. He made those High Templar into Archons, but let's see if Cass can win this battle with the kiting here. Marauders doing good damage, running away from those Zealots, even though they have charge. Right now, Trace just moving on in here. 2 Colossus now joining the fray. And, well, we're seeing the natural getting lifted here. SCV's running into the main. A couple Vikings are out here to try to deal with the Colossus. But 1-to-1 ratio, I don't know if that's going to be enough. And Koss, but still, he's able to push on through.
Yeah, these Marauders just doing so much damage to the Colossus and the Stalkers, but there's a couple more charged Zealots coming on in, doing some good work, at least tanking some shots from those Marauders, and oh my god, that concussive shells upgrade coming back into play at the 19-minute mark, and Trace is going to have to back up. I don't even know where these 2 players are at the end of that. I mean, Koss lost a lot of workers, but he's got mules, and they're still on even bases right now.
Yeah, I mean, there's a 10 worker difference between the two. The mules are definitely going to be enough to make up for that. So I think with 4 bases is what Koss is on. Yeah, he's got 4 CCs, 4 orbitals. I don't think he's going to skip too much a beat just yet. Yeah. Trace, on the other hand, though, he's going to start having to crank out those units in a hurry, getting out some of those beefy units again.
Indeed. Ghost Academy is finished up, though. And we do have, unfortunately, as my interface shows, 0 nukes, sad face. But he does have some ghosts on the way, and that is going to be extremely helpful versus a lot of those Archons that Trace has been making. I don't even know if Psionic Storm has been researched. Let's see. I'm going to remember. Okay.
It hasn't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Another time I will remember the upgrade, the button to show the upgrades in the observer interface. That's one I don't have to use very often.
Yeah, well, I mean, Trace, he just has been using those high Templars for Archons, which is fine. I mean, Archons are pretty good. They do splash damage, shorter range than a Colossus, but they can attack air as well. But you really do need that Storm just to help out so much against these Marauders, and the lack of Storm in that battle made it harder for Trace to be cost effective.
Yeah. DT tries to move into the main base and do some damage, but Ghost managed to take that bad boy out. Army for Koss looking to do some damage to a Marine and a Marauder, unfortunately, walk on the wrong side of the pillar. They get a little bit lost. Maybe their sense of direction wasn't quite there. But we may very well end up seeing a big engagement over here. I honestly feel like Trace right now has a bit of a better army. With all these charge zealots, he's going to be able to tank so much damage.
Yeah, absolutely. And the Ghosts, well, there are 2 of these. So, of course, whatever Protoss can do is pending those EMPs. But for the most part, yeah, if the Ghosts don't blanket the whole army, then, yeah, I would agree with you that Trace is in a good spot. But if those EMPs, say, land on those Archons, oh, boy.
Oh, my God. One of the most painful things. I know a lot of Protoss players out there like to compare it to basically having your army instantaneously Psystormed. It feels like it sometimes, even though it doesn't have quite the same visual effect. But DT over in the top left, gonna be able to take out that missile turret. Is he gonna be able to step into the position for the commands? Okay, he's actually not even gonna try. He just backs up.
Yeah, well, it's forced Koss to like back off all his units to that corner. Now he decides to turn around. You know, interesting thing you mentioned about the EMP not having quite the same visual flair of the Storm. If anything, the EMP is probably the lamest spell as far as a visual effect. Don't you think so?
Yeah, it's definitely not one of the most impressive ones. Half the time you don't even notice it. Actually, especially as a Protoss player, I'll just be looking at my like army, I'll be watching the engagement, I'm like, okay, time to hit the button, hit 3 for my High Templars, time to storm, and I'm just like, oh, they don't have an, oh god, they got EMP'd at some point. I'm like, oh god damn it. Are there no scans available? I don't think there are any scans available. Planetary Fortress there.
Yep,
Takes out the DT.
Yeah. That was a good warping though from Trace. Killed off quite a few workers there. And again, forced Koss to pull all his units back. I mean, every time Trace does this, it's forcing Koss to back all his units home so he has less map control. Trace can roam the center, and Trace can basically build more time for himself to get out more units, while Koss is just running back and forth and not able to do any harassment himself.
Yeah. Oh my god, and now look, he's doing it again with 2 Stalkers this time. Oh
Stalkers.
God. I mean, he can 2-shot SCVs if each of the Stalkers attack twice. Well, Zealot harassment going on the right-hand side. God, he's just relentless with the continuous aggression with these worker harassments.
Yeah, and you know what? While some of the stragglers keep the bio team busy, a couple of the Zealots got in some more SCV kills. It's just adding up little by little.
I'm starting to wonder, though, about the unit composition for Trace. Because you look at it, and it's very Zealot heavy. I mean, extremely Zealot heavy. And that can work out. But at the same time, it's kind of like what you were saying. You know, a couple of good EMPs, you take out a lot of those Zealots' HP. Also, Zealots in really, really high number, if the Terran player is kiting back, can sometimes kind of backfire. Ooh, there's a good storm going down. Softening up some of that army. Medevac should be able to heal them up, though.
Yeah, plenty of energy on those. I think the other thing, too, with the Zealot heavy army is positioning is so important in a battle to make sure all those Zealots can get in on the action. And right now they are going after those units there. They are starting to spread a bit. EMP's landing on pretty much a big part of Trace's army. But the bio units are thinning out in numbers as well.
3 Zealots! Oh my god.
I'll say.
Yeah, okay, it's actually not even 3-3. There's a 3-2 Zealots versus 3-3 Marines and Marauders, but GG gets called. Losing that big army engagement, Trace is going to be able to take the game. Huh.
Yeah, I just, his Zealots, you know, they all spread out in a nice line before
Yeah.
the EMPs got out. I think that helped out a lot.
Yeah.
I didn't really see much kiting on the part of Koss there.
I
in
think it
that
was kind
battle.
of difficult, right? Because actually, if you looked at how the engagement ended up happening, oh my god, you know what, Droopy? I'm going to utilize something. It's the fact that we're in a replay. So people might complain, oh man, it's not live. Well, guess what? Can't do this in a live replay. So you like see over here, I mean, yeah, I think that Koss could have backed up, but I mean, even earlier on, this photon cannon has it is a kill right now. It's done a lot of damage. It actually killed off or helped do a lot of damage to the ghosts as well. And the Zealots also managed to get a huge, nice kind of surface area on the left-hand side and the right-hand side of this army.
Yeah.
So I think that really Trace got a great engagement over there, even though I was kind of concerned because, let's be honest, he was moving up a ramp with most of his army through kind of a choke. I was kind of concerned that the Zealots wouldn't be able to get through, but he did a nice job kind of making those openings for them.
Well, if there's a choke you want to fight through, this would be one of those. It's a pretty wide ramp, so.
That's
and then,
true,
of course, even though he's moving from low to high ground, he already has the high ground with that Nexus Gold, so.
Yeah, that's true. Well, regardless, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be going to the analysis segment with Trace. Don't go anywhere. We will be right back. Welcome back from that Protoss versus Terran, back here with Trace, and we're jumping to the analysis segment. Trace, take it away, man.
Alright, so we just have a normal macro game here. This is versus Empire Koss, or not Empire Koss anymore. He is, I'm not sure what team he's on anymore.
Cascade, I think.
Oh yeah, Cascade, Cascade.
Yeah. Empire rolls off the tongue though, man. Empire.
Yeah, that's because he's been Empire player for years.
Yeah.
Okay, so basically, a few things I want to point out here is my placement of my observers. So I have basically a line here, and for everywhere else that there isn't an observer, there will be pylons, and these don't just serve as vision. I can harass with them, obviously. So later on, you'll see me actually utilize those. For now, I don't really worry too much about them because I don't really need to send a warp anything right now. I just want to make sure I don't die to any of his pushes because my observers are showing me exactly where he's at. So I'm just massing up, trying to make as much stuff as I can so I won't die. So I can see right here that he's moving in. The observer just got told me that. So okay, so I react to it now. I'm not sure if he attacks right here. Okay, he does. I did some really poor army battle because he moves his bio away, which was really good, so I lost a lot of stuff there, but he lost a lot of Vikings, and I'm not sure, I just have, my supply is like pretty even, I'm not sure how, but I'm doing okay, so at this point, I'm gonna pause right here. At this point, I see that like he doesn't have too much army here, and my observers don't see any more rally coming in from over here, so I just ended up making this decision to warp 6 or 7 zealots over here, and I just want to go send them in. So while I'm doing this, there's a DT over here being a nuisance, and his rally will just end up going right there by his base. So hopefully these zealots will like get on top of it before it gets up too big, too much of a bio army. But I think he ends up defending it, but I end up being okay at my base too. At my base I'm defending, but I think I have to pull probes right here because he has a little bit too much, and I'm not controlling the very best right here either. Yeah, so I pull right here. I don't know if I should pull right here. I can do a photon overcharge if I would just wait, but I ended up doing it anyway. And those zealots ended up killing a decent amount of stuff. He lost some bio, and then he's losing. This one zealot actually killed a couple SCVs there, which was really nice. And he didn't see it, so I got a little bit more out of that than I really wanted. So I ended up like stabilizing. Our supplies are pretty even. I think the best thing to have against Terran is have equal supply. Usually Terran will be ahead of you in supply because they're constantly making bio, and that just expends their money, and their supply goes up pretty rapidly. So I guess an important thing is just try to macro as best as you can, because if you don't, Terrans will just out macro you. They don't need as many workers as a Protoss player, so you can see in the unit tab, he has 53 SCVs right now. But later on, after this battle that happens right here, he'll have about 30 SCVs, I think, and that's really good for what his setup is at because he has actually 4 orbital commands. He has 2 here, he has 1 here, and he has 1 here. So after this fight right here, which I lose, I don't want to say, I guess convincingly, yeah, I lose pretty convincingly, but he loses some workers, and so he's at 37, but he has the potential to go up to 4 mules at a time, which is like really nice. The only downside is that these mineral patches here and here are the only ones he has, so he's gonna have to lift over soon, otherwise he's not gonna be able to sustain this production for long. And for me, I guess what I have to do is just not die and try to get an upgrade out one at a time. Keep making units and get an upgrade out one at a time because he has 2-2 and I'm not gonna be able to sustain myself if I keep having to like pull my zealots back, and he'll just keep kiting me with 2-2 marauders, and that's not good. I think yeah, he never ends up attacking me because my army, I just make units like the entire time. I don't make any more additional workers because I don't really have to. I don't really have much more economy than he does. My base is gonna get mined out down here. This one is pretty healthy because I pulled all my probes off it and I just had to resaturate it, so I think I have an advantage there. This is gonna dry out pretty fast. There's already 3 on there, so I guess money management is pretty important in these situations where like there's a lot of action on the map, where I had zealots going on and I'm fighting at the same time. You have to have good decision making. I think going for those zealots was okay. Like I wouldn't have I don't think I would have not won the game if I didn't make those, but it was just a good distraction. Yeah, if a Terran player if you let a Terran player do everything they want without them having to worry about the Protoss's little shenanigans, then it makes it way easier for them.
All right, well, if that's all you have to say, then we're going to be jumping back into the interview segment. Thank you very much, Trace. See you guys there.